9 o'clock. Let's call the meeting to order. Roll call, I guess, Jerry, you've been note, Barb and Bill are absent, but maybe they'll be coming in a little bit late. And as a reminder, if we get into that, if they don't, oh, there's Barb, so. For passing a motion, it needs to be majority of the planning commission, not just those present, so we all need 4 for approval, so if we get into that situation. Anyway, approval of November 28th minutes. Minutes are published in our packets. Any additions, corrections, deletions? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion for approval of the November 28th minutes as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Approval of the agenda. Today's agenda is 21 items, with items 3 through 16 being on the consent calendar. And PJ, you said that you had some other items from membership. From staff. You want to bring it up now, or just for adding to the agenda?
Sure, we can just add it, not discuss them now. But just additional ordinances will be coming up for review: building permit report, VHR report, evangelista report, and comp plan report.
Okay, thank you. Yep. Any other changes or modifications to the agenda? If not, I'd entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Consent calendar. The following items have been placed on the consent calendar for action to be taken on all items in accordance with the staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar by the planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration. The findings of this planning commission are recommendations to the Pennington County Board of Commissioners, who will make the final decision. I do need to pull number 10. And Travis, you indicated you may be pulling a couple?
Yes, I'd like to pull item number 11 and 15. I have a couple of questions on those.
You want me to read through them first before we pull them?
Yep, go ahead.
Yep, okay. PJ Conover, Director of Planning Department. Item number 3, conditional use permit review 1401 for PLM Investments LLC. Marielle Laris is the applicant to review a single-wide mobile home as a single-family residence located in a suburban residential district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of CUP 1401 with 9 conditions. Item 4, conditional use permit review 1023 for Reynolds Livingston LLC to review a recreational vehicle park with 4 RV sites in a highway service district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of CUP 1023 with 12 conditions. Item 5, conditional use permit review 1205, Carol and Ken Duncan to review a multifamily dwelling unit in a low-density residential district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of CUP 1205 with 6 conditions. Item 6, conditional use permit review 1527, Carol and Ken Duncan to review an existing bed and breakfast to include special events and to allow for the sale of wine and beer in a low-density residential district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of conditional use permit 1527 with 25 conditions. Item 7, conditional use permit review 1614 for Ron Toof to review a recreational vehicle to be used as a temporary living quarters on the subject property while the applicant works to replace the single-wide mobile home that was destroyed by fire in a suburban residential district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of conditional use permit 1614 with 11 conditions. Item 8, conditional use permit review 1622, BH Power Incorporated, BH Electric Cooperative. Michael Pogany is the agent to review a contractor storage yard for the Tekla Osage Rapid City 230 kV transmission line project in a general agriculture district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of conditional use permit 1622 with 8 conditions. Item 9, conditional use permit review 1624 for BH Power Incorporated, BH Electric Cooperative. Michael Pogany is the agent to allow a contractor storage yard for the Tekla Osage Rapid City 230 kV transmission line project in a general agriculture district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of conditional use permit 1624 with 9 conditions. Item 10, construction permit 1612, City of Rapid City to open cut and bore installation of PVC pipe for water main extension for City of Rapid City north of South Side Drive to Morris Lane. Staff recommends approval of construction permit 1612 with 9 conditions. Item 11, construction permit 1613, Tally Construction Incorporated, John Tally is the applicant, to remove material from an existing pond. Staff recommends approval of construction permit 1613 with 8 conditions. Item 12, Plan Unit Development Review 0509, Richard Sturkle, to review an existing plan unit development. Staff recommends approval of the extension of Plan Unit Development 0509 with 14 conditions. Item 13, Plan Unit Development Review 0604, Cheyenne River Ranchettes, to review an existing Plan Unit Development. Staff recommends approval of the extension of Plan Unit Development 0604 with 19 conditions. Almost there. Item 14, Minor Plan Unit Development Amendment Review 1105 for Alan Farley to review an accessory structure prior to a principal in Spring Creek Acres Plan Unit Development. Staff recommends approval of the extension of Minor Plan Unit Development Amendment 1105 with 6 conditions. Item 15, Conditional Use Permit Review 1520 for Mitch Morris to review a construction equipment sales on the subject property in a general commercial district. Staff recommends to continue the review of Conditional Use Permit 1520 to the January 9th, 2017 Planning Commission meeting with 3 conditions. Item 16, Conditional Use Permit 1636 for Enola Gorham. Patrick Smith is the agent to allow a multifamily dwelling on a subject property in a suburban residential district. Staff recommends to continue Conditional Use Permit 1636 to the January 9th, 2016 Planning Commission meeting.
Are there any items staff wishes to pull?
Which ones were you guys?
10, 11, and 15?
13.
13?
13.
Okay. Other than, right now, we have 10, 11, 13, and 15. Any other from the Planning Commission?
Number 9. Number 9.
Number 9. Anyone from the audience wishing to pull any of those items? So right now, we have items 9, 10, 11, 13, and 15 pulled for further consideration. Entertain a motion for approval of the consent calendars 3 through 8, and then 12, 14, 16.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Item 9.
Regarding item 9, I'm just pulling it because I will be abstaining from the vote.
Staff's recommendation is for approval of conditional use permit with 9 conditions.
Is there any questions on that?
Not, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move for approval of conditional use permit 1624 with 9 conditions.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item 10. I requested removal of that. It's a banner project for the city, and I've been involved in that project, so I will be abstaining. Other than that, I didn't have any other discussion or questions for Brittany on item 10. Staff's recommendation is for approval.
I'll move to approve construction permit 16-12 with 9 conditions.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I am abstaining, so, thank you. Item 11.
Yes, I pulled this one just for, just a couple of questions, if you don't mind. I don't know, do you have to read through it real quick, or is there anything we need to do before I ask the questions, or just?
I was going to pull it anyway, probably for the same thing that you're going to ask questions for.
Oh, well, maybe,
Maybe?
I guess we'll
Okay.
find out. Go ahead if you want to.
Hey, if you want to summarize it. Brittany then.
Yes, actually, this was a construction permit to dredge a pond on the property, and actually, when we went out there, the project was complete already. So I had spoke to Mr. Talley about it, about needing a floodplain development permit and things, so we are gonna work to try to bring the property into compliance, because it was done before the construction permit was approved. So my recommendation is actually to continue it to the next planning commission meeting, or actually the January planning commission meeting. Is that January 7th? Yeah, January 9th, 2017 planning commission meeting.
Now, if I understand, the work has already been done for the dredging, correct?
Correct.
And so it was already spread on the field. So now he has to get a floodplain, the flood hazard area survey because he's already done the work and all that kind of stuff?
Yes, it should have been done prior to the
Prior to
work
that.
being done, but we still have to get the approval for it, because it was done in the floodplain.
And then the other question I have, and I noticed someone's back in the back raising their hand, so I'm guessing she's part of this one. Come on up, please,
Oh.
or unless you have something else first.
No, but I should be the one
Oh,
right.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I have the floodplain from when I applied for my title, and it didn't disturb the floodplain. All we did was fill in the low spots.
That is disturbing the floodplain.
Yeah, that is disturbing, because the LOMA that John Talley gave me was for the structure, and that has nothing to do with the work. It has to be specific to the work that's done in the floodplain. So that was when I had talked to John, I had left him a message and talked to him last week about that, so.
Is this a FEMA detailed study in this area, or is it just an approximate study? Or
I think it's a Zone A.
is there identified floodway?
No.
And I have another question. I noticed that it said the property contains these other buildings and that they never had building permits for. My question is, were those buildings, did y'all put the buildings there, or did y'all buy the property and those buildings were
I
previously
bought
there?
the property with that on it.
Okay, so you didn't own the property prior to those buildings being there. When you bought the property, those buildings were there?
Right.
Okay.
And I just wanted to continue it to have time to look into that, to see when they were built and get further information on those, to see if they require building permits or not, so.
And if they do, what is the recourse? What do we have to do, or what is she gonna end up having to do?
Just get the building permits for those structures and pay
But there
the
was-
penalty.
There was a owner before me. Mike Record was the owner before me, so I don't feel that I should have to be responsible for the building permits.
That's, that kind of falls into or buyer beware. It's unfortunate, but I mean, we run into that quite frequently where buildings were built without a building permit. And if it was built before 94, they're grandfathered anyway, correct, Brittany?
Correct.
So I mean, that's why staff needs time to evaluate when the buildings were constructed. But if it was built after 94, they should have pulled a building permit. And unfortunately, a lot of times that doesn't show up in title work on whether a building permit was pulled. But it's basically buyer beware, so.
Correct, and if the structures do need a building permit, the applicant has the opportunity to go before the Board of Commission to request the fees be waived.
Okay.
There's no guarantee, but you have that option.
And what year did you purchase the place?
I just purchased it last year on October 17th.
Other questions for Brittany or the applicant? Staff's recommendation is to continue to January 9th, is that correct?
Yes.
2017?
Yes.
Any further questions?
No, sir.
Not, I entertain a motion. Like I said, staff's recommendation is to continue. So,
I make a motion that CP 16-13 be continued to what meeting?
The January
January
9th.
January 9th meeting.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion. If not, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Item is continued. Take us to item 13.
Item 13 is just a small correction that staff wanted to make. On page 9 of 11 of this staff report, on item D, it says that it appears all conditions of the December 8, 2016 approval are being met. Staff just wanted to clarify that that was a typo. It's supposed to say the December 8, 2014 conditions of approval are being met. Staff just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you for that correction, so. Any other questions, since that's been pulled? Any other questions from planning commission to staff? Staff is recommending approval with 19 conditions. I'd entertain a motion to that effect, then.
Move to approve plan unit development 06-04 with 19 conditions.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Item 15.
Item 15, conditional use permit review 1520 to review the construction equipment sales in a general commercial district. Applicant is Mitch Morris. Commissioner Lassiter.
Mr. Chair, my question mainly just comes at the aspect of, have we even made contact with this individual? It looks like you're having a problem making contact with him.
It's been an
There's
ongoing
considerable history. We've made contact with him through the mail. He's actually scheduled to come in today, talk to the ordinance officer about other issues on his properties. Yes, we have been in contact with him.
Okay, because the last when I was reading this, I was like, it looks like I've made another contact with him, or tried to, and he hadn't heard back from him, but now you have heard back from him since
He's due to come into the office today.
today.
Yep. There are some issues of when he does or does not get his mail or voicemail boxes being full and can't leave messages. Sheriff's Department leaves notes on his door, on his residence. We do everything we can to contact this applicant.
So we're using significant resources to make sure he gets notified.
Not just for us, but for other county issues.
Okay.
And
all I really had.
Just a little bit of history. I mean, there's been a lot of continuations and back and forth, and some approvals and some, like this is, were follow-ups and that, but we see him on the agenda quite a bit, so.
Okay, fair enough. That's all I had. I was like, looks like there's an issue.
Staff is recommending a continuation to January 9th, 2017, I assume, not 16,
Good catch, thank you. With 3 conditions, correct.
with 3 conditions. Entertain a motion to that effect.
I'll move for a continuation of conditional use permit 1520 with 3 conditions to the January 9th, 2017 meeting.
Thank you.
Second.
A motion and second. Further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Item 15 is continued. That takes us to, I guess, county board report.
The Board of Commissioners will hear the November 14th and November 28th Planning Commission recommendations at their December 6th, 2016 Board of Commission meeting, which is tomorrow.
Items from the public. Joyce? Items from staff.
Sure. Just a few things that aren't in there, Mr. Chair made you aware of this morning. The first item, proposed wind and solar energy ordinance. We have a draft ordinance, and it's prepared, and I'd like to email it to you all. I do have 3 printed copies. It's right now at 38 pages, and so I didn't want to burn off too many pages of paper. Basically, if you can look at it for content only, it won't be up for review in front of the Planning Commission until January, so it'll give you ample time to look through it. This was one of the committees that was formed by the Board of Commissioners and headed up by Commissioner Hadcock, and I know Commissioner Lassiter was there. And we've looked at wind energy and also solar energy, and we've had a pretty substantial committee involved. We had solar companies, we had wind companies, we had energy companies, we had residents, kind of across the board. But so what you do receive, we'll be looking at it only for content, not for structure or how the outline is. Okay? It is a little bit different than something we've done before. We're actually starting to include pictures into our ordinance, so. It's kind of the first time we're doing that. Second item, from what I understand, that you don't have a copy of the building permit report, so at the same time, I mail out or email out the the alternative energy ordinance, I'll send that out. But just a couple of highlights, single-family resident homes are down 33%. There were about 103 building permits for single-family residences last year. We're down to 60 this year. But mobile homes are up 59% from 27 last year to 43 as compared to this time. And overall, we're up 1%. From November of 2015 compared to 2016. But the biggest change that you'll see in 2017, like we talked about at the last meeting, is that the code numbers on the side and the names of each category are going to change. The only one that we have to be consistent with is the 101 for single-family homes. That's the one the Census Bureau is concerned about. But all the others are pretty much, we can make up whatever we want. So we'll get you a list of what those new categories and their definitions are going to be for 2017.
And when you recategorize or kind of look at that, I mean, single-family homes, are mobile homes going to be split out or incorporated into single-family homes?
They're separate.
They're still going to be separate?
They're always
okay.
separate, yep. Also, is just an update that the vacation home rental will be going before the Board of Commissioners for the second reading tomorrow, so that's that ordinance. Also, the Evangelistos, the second reading for their planned unit development will be going before the Board of Commissioners tomorrow. The comprehensive plan, essentially a quick update on that is we did get a draft contract back from the consultant. It went up to the state's attorney's office. They reviewed it. We've made some changes based on their recommendations. And I've sent it back to them again for one final review before sending it back to consultant to see what their comments are. Our goal is to get it before the Board of Commissioners at the last meeting in 2015.
16?
16, thank you. I'm just way off this year. All right. Any questions on that? Okay. And then one more item actually from Kinsley.
I do have, I guess, one, on vacation home rental ordinance, second reading, what you sent out to us is
That's what,
there haven't been any further changes or amendments to that?
that's the same thing the Board of Commissioners have gotten. It was all the changes that were requested after the first reading.
And you're not anticipating any changes? Hard to tell.
Yes, hard to tell.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kinsley Girl from the State's Attorney's Office. This is my last meeting, and I want to introduce Angela Shute. She comes to us from Nebraska. She had 9 years at a private firm there doing civil work, and she's been with our office for about half a year now. So she'll be covering some planning commission. We're kind of in an odd period right now because Jay Alderman's going to be out for a little bit. So Michelle Hoffman, who would normally cover planning commission, is going to be covering county board meetings. And so in the meantime, Angela's going to cover planning commission. So if you have any questions, she will be here.
I'd like to thank you for your service and helping us through some tricky issues along the way while you've been here, and good luck on your future endeavors with the
Thank
city.
you.
So.
Yeah, and I want to thank all of you. It's been such a good experience. I've learned a lot, and we've had a good time. I think things have been pretty stable with the planning commission. It's been great. I've really enjoyed the time, so thank you for everything.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Items for membership.
I just have a question, because I was talking to PJ, was it Friday, PJ, is when we talked? Thursday or Friday last week?
Last week,
Anyway,
2014.
and it has to do with reviewing our package when we have staff reports, and one of the things that I was talking to him about is because I realized something from the last meeting that we had, but it didn't click until I looked at it again later on, so I called up and asked some questions, and then, of course, today it brought it back to the mindset when I was looking at some of these. It's some of the questions that I probably could have called in and asked, and it might have not pulled it off of the consent agenda or something unless somebody else had some questions, but it could have kind of clarified some stuff. And so we were talking, he said, bring it up here, but I'm interested in seeing what you guys think about having it where we can get our packages like a week prior, so we have a week's worth to review them, just in case, there's some stuff out there we want to either go out and talk to the individuals about so we can kind of get clarification, or so we can come in and talk to the planning commission or planning department up there to make sure that, we're understanding it appropriately, since we're doing our part to help serve the public, it would be wise if we had enough time to review certain things if they're more complicated. And the one that comes to mind is like the Evangelistos ones. We've seen that one a couple of times. That, when that one comes out and it's a whole, 78, 90 pages worth of stuff, there might be some more things to evaluate instead of just having a weekend to overview it and then making a decision on it.
Well, and that one you did send out early.
Not
Right,
original.
right, that one he did send out early. But I'm just saying in general, there might be other ones that come up and we're like, you know what, maybe I'd like to ask some more questions, and it be in the weekend. You may not be able to contact the person that's their property, you may not be able to contact PJ. PJ did offer up his cell phone, I'm gonna give it out to everybody, no, I'm just kidding.
I get calls on the weekends.
But, so, it's just one of those things, if we have those questions, or even if we wanted to go out and site visit ourselves to see, to kind of get a better overview. I know we try to get pictures in here, and those pictures are pretty good sometimes, but sometimes it's good to lay eyes on it if we wanted to as well. And I'd like to have that opportunity, to have that time to do service for the community. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
Well, and I think that's evolved a little bit. I know when I started on the planning commission, I went to some of the state planning things. You're basically not supposed to have outside discussion with the landowners and stuff like that. It's supposed to be what gets heard here, that everybody hears and everybody's voting on the same thing. So, but the legislature, 2 years ago, I think, did loosen that up a little bit, but there have been court cases where planning commissioners have gone out, and in that instance, the planning commissioner is also a county commissioner, but it basically, ex parte communication, and it ended up in a big lawsuit. And so there's some issues to be careful, where Kinsley and Angela, would advise us on some items like that. But as far as, I know we have talked about trying to get packets earlier, and, my concern was if it's a week, is we're delaying, sometimes people are ready to go and just chomping at the bit to move dirt, and we're going to be delaying them by possibly another 2 weeks, right?
We would bump all the
Because, we're only
deadlines
meeting every
back.
other week, so I mean, it's almost bumping them 2 weeks. So I mean, I'm not sure the public is getting due process then. I would agree, I'd like to see it at least a day earlier, but I don't know, that I know a lot of times you guys are rushed to, at 4 o'clock, you're rushing to mail them out, so.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's even practical, to even bump it by a day sometimes, but I don't know. It's a good discussion item.
I just know that I've received 2 packages on Saturdays now, and if I don't get the package until 12, so now I have half of Saturday, maybe Sunday after church, and so it's a little, time constraining on there.
Are you posting,
They take a day and a half to get to you.
Sometimes New Underwood,
They're on the website.
Jerry?
Yeah, they're all, the whole packet's on the website, probably before you even get your mail. Yeah,
Usually
the
you have it on the
agenda-
website by Thursday, right?
yeah, I have to, yeah. Yeah, I know the agenda I have to have up on Wednesday, and then when they go out the door, they get put up on that day. The
Well,
whole packet and the,
Mr. Chair, for a while, you were sending them via email, and that was handy. But you stopped doing that, and I kind of wondered why.
Because you can go out to the web and
They're on
grab
the
it,
website.
anybody. So, I mean, I guess it's,
I don't know if our server can support that with,
Yeah.
sometimes we never know what size, and I do PDF, but I do reduce them down. And sometimes we can't, they won't,
Yeah.
they restrict us on the size.
well, I know like our email, any file over 10 megs with attachment,
I
it
think
gets
ours is 5,
Yeah,
which
Yeah.
these packets usually exceed.
now.
yeah, it's good.
yeah, that's not much space.
Well, and I guess I think the assumption was, and right or wrong, but I mean, if you can get email, you got access to the web.
Yeah.
So you can just go to the website and grab it rather than have it emailed out.
Mr. Chair,
Sorry.
and just on Travis's comment, you weren't here when we talked about this before. It was after one of the state conferences. We're not saying you can't talk to the public, because you've probably gotten calls from people.
Oh, yeah, I've had some calls.
But what we've been doing, or at least what I do, is that if I've had a discussion or made a visit on an item we're discussing, I disclose that up front, so that everybody else knows what we talked about and what my input is, so that gets put on the record, as being considered, in addition to what was in the agenda.
And I assume, I'm at least assuming from my perspective of things, even if you end up talking with someone about a particular thing, you don't tell them which way you're going, you're just collecting information. You know, this says that this is what you're doing, and I'm just trying to figure out,
Yeah.
you know, that part.
Well,
You're not-
because-
You never falsely lead them one way or the other.
Well, because usually they're calling you before you've even seen the agenda item. They're calling you to tell you, they're usually calling to tell you, this is going to be on the thing here. I just want you either to give you the opportunity to come on a visit, or here's my side of the story. At least that's the kind of phone calls I've had with people, or discussions.
But Lori's right, I mean, it should be disclosed, because the planning commission should all be voting on the same information. And so if you've got information and don't relay that to everyone else, it's really not appropriate to have that discussion.
Good to know.
Anyway, like I said, there have been court cases in South Dakota over that, so, I mean, and I think that's why the legislature acted to kind of open some of that up, so I mean, like, you know, if we have something that I'm not familiar with, I mean, my wife and I enjoy a Sunday drive to go look at some of these things, so. See parts of the county I never knew existed, so.
Right.
So, but I mean, you know, like I said, that has evolved a little bit, because I mean, after one of the state planning conferences, I felt like, geez, I shouldn't even be driving by the site. And, you know, then the question came up even at the state planning conference, you know, what if you're going to work and you have to drive by that site every day? Are you supposed to drive by, you know? So there's some practicality to it, and I think the legislature tried to open that up a little bit, so. I guess, PJ, did you have anything else, or Kinsley, I guess?
It's funny
Get
that
some
you
final
mentioned this,
action
because
from
I've been writing a memo on this, and it's just one of those things that I've kind of like put to the back burner for a while, but I'll get a memo out to you by the time I leave. So you're actually going to get a memo on that exact question. So the big thing is that, yeah, if you have any sort of ex parte communications with anyone, any sort of an applicant, basically the applicants or any of their agents, and you go to the site, something like that, you communicate with anyone or see anything, that's just something, if it's not actually disclosed at the meeting by the applicants or by staff in the whole presentation, then at least by the end of the meeting, you need to disclose that you've been there. So if you get the information at the meeting and it's all the things that you've been told through those ex parte communications, well, you know, it would be fine if you were to say, oh, yes, I also visited with this person and got just this information. That's fine to say something like that. But realistically, what you just have to be sure of is to share any information that other people in the meeting didn't actually get. So that's the big thing. So Lori, you're right on with your comment about it. Let's see. Yeah, the big thing is that there is a state statute, there's a few state statutes on that, and I'll provide that to you in this memo so that everybody has some clarification as to what's allowed and what's not. But it was a good comment too. I mean, obviously don't make any promises to anyone ahead of time, because the big thing is that,
You certainly can't tell them how you're gonna vote.
yeah, don't, exactly.
Absolutely not.
Exactly, because all the decision-making has to be made in this public forum, so.
Nothing on that, but the other part of your comment was possibly getting it a week earlier. So we still have to
Or
discuss
some
that part of
amount
it.
sooner.
Yep. We moved back the deadlines a week to allow staff more time, and it still is not enough time. If you wanted to get it a week earlier, we would be okay with that, but we would look at moving the deadlines back another week. It benefits you, benefits Jerry also, because things are getting done a week prior. But what we do find out with a lot of applicants is they do come in that last minute with changes, which then you'll have a staff report that's a week old and then memo on memo on memo because this is amended and amended. So it's kind of it's win or lose either way. So we take the chance of getting amendments and changes to staff reports at the last minute. They then get emailed out, or you get the packets a week earlier and hopefully nothing happens. So we'd be okay either way. It would be really up to you what you would like.
As far as the individual item, is applicant contacted before they get a hard copy of the staff report, or is that the first contact they have on their action?
They're definitely contacted if it's a new permit. I mean, we have to meet with them, we talk with them. If it's a review, the staff calls them, lets them know that's up for review.
Okay, but like as far as conditions that are put on the first time, do
They
they,
don't.
are they aware of the conditions before they get the hard copy mailed to them?
Usually not, no. Unless a staff member tells them or meets with them.
Okay.
Yep.
Because we have kind of heard that where, gee, I just got this in Friday's or Saturday's mail and I didn't have a chance to really respond to it before Monday morning meeting.
It would give applicants an extra week for people who are getting a new CUP. The Heisega Lodge ones that were up for today, I met with those applicants for over the last 3 months. But they knew that nothing was going to change because it's basically a change in the name. None of the conditions were changing, so at least, but that was a review, so they've had them for over a year.
Mr. Chair, so you're saying, but I know you guys have talked about this before. If you've got like an unusual condition or a new condition, you normally discuss that with the applicant before you put it in a permit, right?
If it's odd,
Yeah, if it's something different, or,
we'll let them know.
at least it seemed like from the staff report that you guys have a discussion, you give them a draft of it, and they give you your comments, and,
Or in the case of one Commissioner Lassiter talked about, we at least try to contact them. Yeah. But they're definitely getting sent the hard copy. So if they don't get back to us or don't listen to our voicemail, the voicemail's full, they're at least getting a written copy of it.
before the meeting. The
As
same
long as
time
they,
we-
as long as they pick it up, but
Yeah.
people with PO boxes,
Oh,
we
yeah,
don't know when
okay.
they're getting them.
Yeah, everything that you see in the packet, the agent, applicant, surveyor, engineer, all gets copies
They've
too.
all seen that.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much any name and address you see on that front page is getting a copy.
Mr. Chair, this is really a question of deadline. If the applicants knew that the deadline was a week before and no changes could be made, they would have to abide by that. So what, I appreciate you're trying to accommodate people at the very last minute, but it's not necessary.
I'm just, well, I was on planning commission in 2000. The meetings were Monday afternoons, if I remember. Or is it an afternoon? I can't remember if it's Monday or not. Is there any benefit of, does that even give applicants more time to try to question you before a meeting? 9 o'clock in the morning, they're probably,
Well, we get phone calls right before 8 o'clock and people standing at the counter sometimes, and we're trying to get ready for the meeting and they show up. But I think staff is doing a really good job at letting the applicants know ahead of time and having those communications so it doesn't happen. But it's not going
So
to
they
stop.
try to catch you before the meeting, so you're
I got a
saying.
number of emails over the weekend and phone calls from a certain applicant for an item tomorrow. Yeah. And we work, yeah.
Mr. Chair, just, correct me if I'm wrong, the agenda comes out on Wednesday, is that what you said, Jerry?
Yes.
It's posted. Now, does the applicant roughly have an idea that they're gonna be on that, a particular agenda?
Absolutely.
On that day?
Yes.
So they already know ahead of time they're gonna be on that day, so they should be paying attention in the mail for their package to come to them so they can review it.
Or
But-
looking online.
Or looking online.
Yes, and even when they submit their applications, we write on the bottom of it, or where it's indicated, when the meeting date is, time, and stuff. And so we give them copy to that when they leave, and so they know when they submit their exact meeting date they'll be appearing at.
About how far out in advance do they know that information? Just in,
It's our submittal deadlines when they come in and submit.
The day they apply, we put that information on their applications. That's for a new permit. For
Yeah.
reviews, it's staff having to call them to let them know, because
It's
most of the time they don't remember.
Probably a month, depending on each application. A month, some could be with rezones because there's different deadline because of based on advertising. Yeah.
so while they may know at least a month in advance what meeting they're gonna come to, they may not have the staff report until potentially Friday if it mailed out and they didn't get it. And so they get it late on Friday when they get off work. And then now they're trying to figure out, well, who do I call Saturday and Sunday to figure out my questions because I may not understand
I was
that.
trying to show you.
Or they can appear at the meeting.
At the very bottom is, that's an application for conditional use permit. It says this, so
On that day.
it gives them an idea of when they're on the, gonna be on the. If you can see.
I've seen those. I just wanted to know exactly when, but I didn't realize it was like right as they filed it. So I didn't know if that was along in the process or whatnot. So once they got approved to do whatever or whatnot.
See, like this one was dated September 19th. I don't know when you guys actually saw it, but it already tells them that it's going to be on the October 24th meeting. So it's like you said, about a month.
Gotcha. And unless it's odd, they would probably not know what the condition requirements are that y'all are putting on until they receive that
Yeah,
package.
staff's usually discussing with the applicants as things are going forward.
Well, yeah, I would think you'd rather do that than have them show at the public meeting and you know.
That happens,
Yeah.
that happens too.
Well, I know, but I think you guys do a really good job, you know, making sure that people understand that before they show up at the meeting on Monday.
You know, I think, I don't know if, you know, from staff, I'd certainly be open to the recommendations, you know, but I know a lot of times we have people are ready to build and, you know, they've already had to come in a month ahead, you know, almost, and stuff like that. And sometimes time is critical and, you know, even sometimes we've talked about continuing and, you know, you can tell from the applicant that's giving them heartburn to think about continuing when they were already waiting for the process, so. I'd like to try to keep it as timely as possible.
Is that a, Mr. Chair, is that a failure for them to plan and project out that they're coming in last minute on some of these?
I think some of them aren't aware that they need to get permits and things like that. So, I mean, it's a little bit of education, some of the lack of planning. I think it's a little bit of both.
So, well, well, actually, that just kind of clues something to my mind. How can we get that message out to the people that y'all need to know that, you know, if you're doing this? I mean, construction guys know, right? The construction companies know and things like, you know, like electrical guys know. You're telling me the construction companies don't know that they need to get these permits?
Bless your heart, Commissioner, but no.
Well, bless my heart. I would just assume that they, you know, if they're licensed to operate in the state, they would know that the rules of the state are,
Well,
or the county.
and the realtors.
And the realtors.
Well, like, you know, the example we just had today. You know, she's talking about two owners before, or maybe earlier, built buildings, and the current owner wasn't made aware of.
No, yeah.
No.
I caught wind of that real quick. That's why I was asking those questions. I was like,
And it's
no, wait a
not-
minute, did you put them there or somebody else?
And if I'm correct, that's typically not showing, I mean, the easement would show up in the title search, but in a title search, they don't search that every building on that property has a building permit. That's not up to the title
Yeah.
company.
We have very few realtors that call us on behalf of a client, asking us to do research into the property of what needs to be done prior. It doesn't happen as much as we'd like. And we do thank them and encourage that behavior again. Because it saves everybody a lot of time and headache.
I have some realtor friends. I'm gonna thoroughly encourage them to do that.
Yep.
I think it ended up coming through the Board of Commissioners, but letter to the Realtor Board of lack of disclosure. So that's
Yeah.
creating some issues.
Haven't we done that a couple times?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I think we've done that several
Yeah.
times.
As a
In
commission?
the time
you
that
sent
I've
a-
been here.
Well, it came from the Board of Commissioners rather than the
board,
Planning
okay.
Commission. That was
Yeah.
more appropriate.
Yeah, it was-
No, I think that's a good idea, but yeah. I don't know, I just feel sometimes that I'm not doing justice if I feel like I've got it on the weekend and I've got other, you know, life does happen, and it's like I'm trying to review this and try to do the right thing, or at least be informed on it, and then sometimes it seems like I'm rushing through it rather than giving it the time I think is necessary. That's the only reason why I brought it up, so. I mean, this package was kind of short, and last week's package was kind of short, so that was good, but.
I think next meeting's gonna be about the same as this, right?
Yeah,
And were you aware that it's on the website?
I was aware on the website, but some, you know, I live out in the country and, you know, I can't say that my internet's always 100% good to go. We lose connection quite a bit. since
Well,
I'm
and the
out
nice
there.
thing is you can download it and save it as a PDF.
True,
And then, you know, browse it on your leisure,
yep.
because then that doesn't. It's really convenient when you're out of town.
I see.
I like it.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, that one probably for
Yeah.
sure,
It's
absolutely.
really nice, yeah.
But if you do want to make any changes to it, we recommend making them at the next meeting. 'Cause, then we can set up the 2017 schedule.
Sounds good. Any other items for membership? Good discussion. Hearing none, I entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same
And
sign. We're adjourned.
remember, the meeting on the 19th is at 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yes,
2 o'clock or 2:30?
2 o'clock.